APS-C or full frame? Which one should I get and why? Well, I'm gonna explain it in this video, so stay tuned. What's up guys, if you're new here, I'm Mauricio and I post videos about filmmaking, photography, and I even post some of my edits in here, so make sure you hit that like button down below. So if you're a beginner or you're thinking about upgrading to a full frame camera, these are the main things you will get. You will get better quality, more features, better dynamic range, more depth of field, and better performance in low light. Before we start talking about the good things about full frame, let's talk about the price. Yes, it will be more expensive, not only the body, but lenses will be more pricey. Well, that's because you'll be paying for high quality glass and the features we will be discussing right now. Number 1, quality. The more you pay for a camera, the better quality you will get. Let's compare these 3 cameras side by side with the same settings at 1080p, 24 frames per second, and focal length. The first one is the iPhone XS Max, the second one is the Canon 80D, and the third one is the Sony a7S III. As you can see, if I zoom in, the Sony has better detail and less noise. That's because of the larger sensor size. Number 2, features. Almost every full frame camera will have better features like 4K, log, 10-bit, focus peaking, and Kodak. Some of the newest crop sensor cameras have 4K now, but it was never like this. I think they started adding 4K into crop sensor cameras about 2 years ago. But just because you're shooting in 4K on a crop sensor camera doesn't mean it'll be better than 4K on a full frame camera. Take a look at these 2 clips right here. One is from an iPhone and one is from an a7S III. As you can see, the one on the right is a much better quality because of the bigger sensor size. Log picture profile. What this does to your image, it creates a flat profile so you can have better dynamic range. Your highlights and shadows won't be crushed and it will create this cinema look to your image. 10-bit. It's a feature that gives you more data when color grading. 8-bit gives you 256 shades of red, blue, and green, while 10-bit gives you 1024 shades. Focus peaking is a great feature to use when using manual focus. I set my focus peak on red, so whenever there's a red outline on my subject, it means it's in focus. This is a great tool to never miss your focus. It also gives you better Kodak. Full frame cameras will give you much better Kodak like 422 and uncompressed footage. Number 3, dynamic range. Full frame cameras will retain shadows and highlights much better and will avoid blowing them out. Take a look at these 3 clips. The one in the far right gives you more detail on the highlights and it's not so blown out. As for one in the left, it's literally completely white. The a7S III gives you 14 stops, the iPhone XS Max gives you 12 stops, and the 80D only gives you 6.75 stops. I'm surprised the iPhone has better dynamic range than the 80D because the iPhone has a much smaller sensor size, so I was expecting it to have less dynamic range. Number 4, depth of field. So the bigger the sensor, the more background blur you will get. The iPhone definitely gives you the least depth of field. The 80D gives you some depth of field and the a7S III gives you the most. And lastly, number 5 is low light. Full frame cameras will perform much better in low light. Let's compare them. As you can see, the iPhone is struggling. There's a lot of noise and grain. The Canon 80D is doing okay, but you can still see some noise. As for the a7S III, it's completely usable and it is the cleanest from all. Sure, this specific Sony camera is probably like the low light king because it has less megapixels compared to the rest of the full frame cameras. But they did that for a reason. Since the a7S III is designed for video, the less megapixels it has, the less noise it will have. But even full frame Canon cameras like the R5 does better in low light than a crop sensor camera like my 80D. So now that I've explained what you can get when purchasing a full frame camera, I hope you realize that if you want to pursue filmmaking as a career, upgrading to a full frame camera will be 100% worth your investment. You can produce higher quality video and you can begin charging more of your services, and clients will respect you and want to hire you more. If you want to speed up your color grading workflow, I created 6 LUTs for Premiere Pro. They're only $10 and I'll put the link down below. If you got any value out of this video, make sure you like, subscribe, and I'm out.